See, there are interesting things in life. Life is always not bed of roses. Certain bad things happen, certain good things happen. Especially when you are taking up a project of this magnitude, that nobody has done it in the world. You are the first one to do this kind of a project, actually. See, so I keep telling my people and different others actually that when you are taking up challenges beyond a point, be prepared for failure. That's what has happened in this particular project, actually. See, there are about 250 mass transit systems or metro rail projects in the world. At the time when we contemplated or when we started this project, there were 200. Hardly 4 or 5 are attempted in PPP, public-private partnership. Most of these projects, all metros in the world, they are done with people's money, government, taxpayers' money. But here, I took up the challenge that instead of doing with government money, we will do it with private sector money, so that there is no burden on the taxpayer. So this was my philosophy. The whole world challenged me, everybody. They all said, this fellow is a mad fellow, he thinks he is a hero. See, nowhere in the world actually say a metro rail project in private sector is successful. So how is he going to do it? So Hyderabad is not going to have a metro. This was the thing. On top of it, the first experiment unfortunately failed. This is what I keep telling actually. See, failure only teaches you certain things in life. Once you have a courage of conviction, you must be prepared actually to stick to your values, to stick to whatever you believe. It's the power of ideas actually. Ideas change the world. This was just a concept that we needed to. When Delhi Metro became a success, Dr. Sridharan, my guru, he was the one who proved to the world what India is capable of. Those days it was taking about 20 years to do a project, big projects. Whereas Delhi Metro, before that of course Konkan Railway, I was the youngest officer to be picked up by him to be in Konkan Railway. I learned a lot of lessons from him. Then he moved on to Delhi Metro. Delhi Metro, he did it in about 7.5 years, 60 kilometers stretch, he had done it. So then we all got inspired. But my model was different from that of his model. Okay, so that was the reason. Then he also thought that I was challenging his model. He didn't agree with me. So everybody was attacking me. On top of it, this failure happened. The failure has nothing to do with us. The failure happened because there was corporate governance failure in this country. Initially, when we awarded the project, when we called for global bids, Satyam Group, Metas got the project. Metas did extremely well for about 5-6 months. All of a sudden, one day, Mr. Ramling Raju, the chairman of Satyam Group, declared to the world that he was manipulating the accounts, and on the board of Satyam, all the stalwarts in the world were there actually. See. People like Krishna Palepu, okay, people like Ramohan Rao, who was the then dean of ISB, and lots of foreign experts, management experts, the wizards of the world were there on that. They didn't know that he was manipulating the accounts. PwC, which was auditing the firm, did not know that he was manipulating the accounts. We had to go by whatever they submit. So that's how they got it. Then when this happened, everybody started throwing stones at me, saying that, see, this fellow thought he was a hero. He did all sorts of things. Now Hyderabad will not get a metro. So I used to be butt of jokes. Every cocktail party in Hyderabad, they would crack jokes on NVS Reddy and his team and the metro project. So then again, I had to reflect over it, whether I did the right thing or I was doing the wrong thing. Okay. I went to the then Planning Commission Deputy Chairman, Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia, and there was Mr. Gajendra Haldia, who was his assistant. They were the troika of reforms actually when P.V. Narasimha Rao changed this country forever. When we were on the brink of collapse in the 80s, he was the one who transformed. At the time, he brought in rank outsiders. For example, Manmohan Singh, who was not a politician, he brought him as finance minister. Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia was a rank outsider. First time in the history of India, it happened that actually a non-IAS officer was straight brought and he was made the finance secretary, and Dr. Haldia used to be at the time joint secretary. So these were the people. So they again encouraged me. By later he moved in as deputy chairman Planning Commission. There's nothing wrong with your model. Your model is perfect. There is corporate governance failure in this country. So these kind of personalities actually, see, a few of them, I'm grateful to them actually that they were the ones who stood by me when whole world was attacking me. So this is how actually we have done this project, a project which was written off, a project which was considered to be a jinxed project. Today we made it happen. The world sits up and realizes, it takes cognizance that Indians have done this project. This was the mandate given to me by Dr. Manmohan Singh the then Prime Minister. He said, prove to the world what India is capable of. I was born in a village in the coastal part of southern India, Andhra Pradesh. Okay. It was East Godavari district. Okay. I was born there. 17 years of my life I spent in that village. I did my entire schooling and college studies in Telugu. Okay. But somewhere in intermediate, I made up my mind, I must get into civil services. Those days, some magazines used to come because we didn't know. I didn't have English newspaper in my village. I had to cycle 10 kilometers nearest town, Ramachandrapuram, to get Hindu newspaper and read it. Okay. So night time, after I finished my regular lessons, what I used to do is actually, I used to listen to either BBC or Voice of America to improve my pronunciation. My mother, sometime I used to fall asleep, it seems, like that actually. Then she would take away my books and the radio, etc., and she would put me to proper sleep. So that kind of an education system I had actually. See, this is what I keep telling actually. See, when I went to Delhi for my higher education, they thought I was from one of the top schools of India. Okay, I had to tell them that no, I was from a regional medium English, Telugu medium education. So this is, it all depends on how you do it. Anyway, during intermediate, it got into my idea that actually I should get into civil services. So I started reading magazines, etc. So those days, most of the people in civil services, so I used to see the toppers' names, etc. As I say, MA History from JNU, MA Political Science from JNU, MA Sociology from Delhi University. This kind of a thing used to be there. So I thought to get into civil. Nobody was there to guide me actually. I was topper of my school and I was the topper of my college actually. See, so my parents, as usual, normally anybody expects you to become either an engineer or a doctor actually. See. So they thought that I would do medicine, and without telling anyone I joined BA. My teachers laughed at me, my lecturers scolded me saying that you are a fool actually. What do you think of, you think IAS is a joke? You will not get into it, and actually see, you have ruined your career. You shouldn't have joined BA. What do you do after this? Actually. Anyway, I topped Andhra University in BA, then went to Delhi, JNU for my higher education. Anyway, that's all a different story. But in this process, actually, see, I was always a risk taker, a calculated risk taker. This, in fact, perhaps shaped my personality to do whatever I have done. And I have also seen one thing is actually, see, Indian education system unfortunately doesn't test a person's real IQ actually. See, the problem with Indian education system is we give more emphasis on how much memory power you have. So how much you can mug up and how much you can reproduce. This is the problem. I have seen the toppers of different things. Okay, over a period of time, most of the toppers actually, see, who were with me, they have fallen by the wayside afterwards. Even those who got into good services, IAS, IPS and other central services, etc. Afterwards, see, they have not progressed much in their career, or they have not done many innovative things. Innovation is an important thing. Today the world, the way it is changing actually, see, it's all driven by innovation. Ideas actually rule the world. So this is what I keep emphasizing, but unfortunately the Indian education system doesn't emphasize on this. Anyway, so I got into civil services, IRAS, Indian Railway Account Service in 1983. I joined IRAS. Initially I worked in Secunderabad. Of course, once I left my area, my village, actually, see, afterwards I never went back to that area. Only once a year I go, one day. Otherwise, okay, I got married here in Hyderabad. It's my mother who shaped my personality. In fact, my mother was a semi-literate person, actually, see, but she used to reel out, a lot of British history those days. Okay, many things, and very interesting. Similarly, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, he was a farmer, but the kind of examples he would give actually about life, these are all nuggets of wisdom. For example, he would say that vinadagun evvaru cheppina vinanantana vegapadaka vivarimpadagum. That means you must listen to whatever he says, you must listen carefully, but don't jump at conclusions. You reflect over it, etc. So these are nuggets of wisdom which are available today. I translate these things. I tell IIT, IIM boys that Indian languages have a lot of nuggets of wisdom. So my maternal grandfather, my mother used to tell me a lot of things. Those days perhaps I didn't appreciate those things much, but today when I reflect, I realized that actually, see, they have lot of distilled wisdom. Actually, life taught them lessons. Anyway, my initial management lessons, I think actually I have learned from my grandfather. Actually, see, he would famously say, what gives strength to a farm? Actually, normally I would say that actually, see, give good fertilizer, take care of good pesticides, etc. All these things actually. No, he would not. He says that no, that is not the thing actually. If the farmer, the landowner, goes around the field every day, that is the real strength of that farm, he says. So now I realize all these things. So this is how actually. So I'm a hands-on man. Whatever I do, okay, I keep doing inspections in my project almost every day. Every other day I go. I tell the engineers actually, see, you have to have a pragmatic approach. This is fine. You are great structural engineers. I tell my L&T engineers actually, you are great structural engineers. But whether it is useful or not, we are not here to build Taj Mahals actually. See, we have to build what is good for people, what is useful for people. So this is how all these things you get with practical experience. Anyway, when we started this project actually, as I mentioned, actually it's a unique project. There were at the time about 200 metro projects in the world. They were all built with government money, taxpayers' money. When it was a casual conversation one day between me and my batchmate, Mr. S.P. Singh, who later became Chief Secretary of the state, Telangana state, and he retired. So at the time he was Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation Commissioner and also the Principal Secretary of Municipal Administration, and I was Additional Commissioner. Working with him, I was also Project Director of MMTS, another interesting project actually. See, one day casually we were chatting, saying that हम भी Hyderabad में metro बनाएंगे, means बनाएंगे. So that was the thing. Nothing was there actually. See, well, if Sridharan could do it in Hyderabad, Delhi, why can't we do it in Hyderabad? So this was the conversation going on. Then of course we had the freedom actually. See, चलो CM के पास जाएंगे बोल के. So Dr. Rajshekar Reddy was the Chief Minister. We walked into his chamber, waited for some time. Actually, he said, what brought you here? We said, sir, we'd like to build metro in Hyderabad. Okay. By then, of course, Dr. Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy used to like me a lot because I was doing a lot of innovative things without spending much of government money. So he said, fine, if you want to build metro, you go ahead and build, but don't ask me money. My priorities are different. Okay. You know my agenda. My agenda is rural. My emphasis is on irrigation. So if you want to go ahead with the project, you go ahead actually, but don't ask me money. And we said, sir, you're talking like this is such a huge project actually. Say, at the time, we estimated the project as 12,132 crore. And you are saying that you won't give us money and you are asking us, no, whatever power you want, I'll give you. But no money, no. Then we thought over it actually. See, how do we do the project? At the time itself, one interesting concept, public-private partnership, which Dr. Manmohan Singh as the Prime Minister, Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia as Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission, and these people, they were talking about PPP projects. India changed considerably because of PPP. When I was visiting abroad in the early 2000s, sometimes I used to feel ashamed actually. Why are we still so backward? We used to look at beautiful roads of say most of the countries, Southeast Asian countries, be it Singapore, be it Hong Kong, be it Malaysia, KL, all these places actually, see, which got independence later than us. How come they're so advanced actually? But after this reforms actually, economic reforms that which Mr. P. V. Narasimha Rao started in this country, India got transformed actually. See, we started having beautiful national highways. We started having beautiful international airports and local airports. We have beautiful seaports. All these things have changed. Okay, power sector has completely changed. Again, I give this example. India is the only country, once it takes, it is capable of doing extreme things. We used to be one of the lowest tele densities in the world. We used to be the highest tariffs in the world in telecom sector. After reforms in just 2 decades, today India has become one of the highest tele densities in the world and the cheapest tariffs in the lowest tariffs in the world. This has happened. I give this example all over the world. I say that India is capable of doing extreme things. Okay, so this is how PPP, public-private partnership, has changed this country. But unfortunately, my own parent department, the railways, have not taken to PPP, and of course metros, nobody in the world has done PPPs. The biggest metro so far done was Bangkok metro, that was 35 kilometers. That also it was a half-hearted attempt. There were no proper documents, etc. So we were mulling over how do you do this project actually. The then planning commission gave us full support. They said, we will stand by you, we'll support you. So first what I had to do was actually I had to assemble all my bosses who some became members in the railway board, member engineering, member of other services, then chairman, one person became chairman railway board also. I worked with those extraordinarily talented Indian railway engineers. Okay. First thing I had to do was, whatever you people have done so far, you please forget about it. I had to de-school them. I keep telling this actually, see, it's famously said, an illiterate person in 21st century is not a person who is illiterate, but a person who is not capable of unlearning whatever he has learnt, and he's not capable of relearning. So this is what I had to do. I had to first de-school my bosses actually, all my ex-bosses. Initially they were wondering, my God, you want to believe private sector in such a complicated system like railways? Actually, you know how complicated, you worked in railways for such a long time. I said, if we are able to trust our air sector with private sector participation, why can't we? Do you think that actually, see, rail safety is more complicated than air safety? Then they said, okay, fine, you have a point, etc. Slowly I have converted them to my thinking. But once having got converted, they really did wonders actually. Beautiful. For the first time in the world actually, see, for our contribution to metro rail technology or metro system is, apart from building a metro in PPP, we have basically, metro used to be somewhere in the esoteric field actually. It was an oligopoly of a few firms in the world, Bombardier, Siemens, Alstom, etc., etc. These are some 4 or 5 European firms, a couple of Japanese firms, a couple of Korean firms. These were the ones which were dominating actually. See, what we did was actually, it's again a conceptual thing. From input oriented technical specifications, we converted them into performance oriented, output oriented performance indices actually. See. So this is an interesting exercise we did in that process. Say, almost 1 year of research we did. All my bosses actually, they're all excellent with 3-4 decades of experience in different engineering disciplines of railways. So we did that exercise and we produced for the first time in the world a codified manual actually, see, indicating all these things, and basically we made it a technology neutral. That is our contribution actually. See, normally what happens is, corruption in India is at a lower level, petty corruption, but corruption in the Western world is a high level corruption. Okay, just by tweaking a few specs here and there actually, see, a few $1 million this side, that side, they change hands actually. See. So this is our contribution. We have seen to it that actually nobody can manipulate, and it's a technology neutral one. So we prepared all that. Then of course we went in for that. First time, as I mentioned actually, it was a failure. We learned lessons from it. Again we went for that. Second time, again PPP, we floated. Luckily we got L&T. As most of us are aware, L&T is a technology giant in this country, engineering giant actually. See, we have got L&T. From then onwards, the rest is history. But it's not that simple. It is one of the most challenging projects in the world. Again, I keep mentioning about this actually. See, no Harvard, no MIT, no Stanford can teach you how to do projects in India, especially in the Indian urban environment, sensitive cities like Hyderabad, where you have lots of issues, problems, etc. Unfortunately, we are still in that socialist mindset that some of the people actually who advocate don't have. Here, unfortunately, the problem in India is that if one person wants to do the project, one person wants to work, there are 4 fellows pulling him down, actually, in famous Indian crab theory. Okay. So this is what used to happen. Every day in front of my office there used to be agitations. Practically every day there were agitations. My effigy was burnt by any number of organizations, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, any number of organizations, any number of times. This happened because 20 religious structures we had to tackle as a part of this project. Okay. For example, if a rail line has to go, it can't take a route like a snake actually. It has to be a straight line. For example, see, you see Shanghai International Airport, from Shanghai International, Pudong International Airport to Shanghai City Center, 35 kilometers. They did maglev, which the technology is German technology, but Germany itself could not implement in there. Germans could not implement in their own country. You require an absolutely straight line for that actually. Anything that came in between, that's simply demolished. Okay. But in India, you have extreme democracy. You have got court cases, etc. I faced so far 360 court cases. We won 350, but it took time. Okay, there were some cases actually which dragged on for 3 years, 4 years, etc. This is a reality in India. So, had court cases, we had agitations, religious organizations, about 20 religious structures were to tackle. You don't know what will happen by tomorrow, because some people, again some engineers, would give them inputs actually. You can stall the project by doing these things. By the color of the flag actually that will be tied to the tree. If it's a saffron flag, by next day it will become a temple. If it's a green flag, it will become a masjid dharma. This is the problem in this country. Okay, so all these things we faced, and you require tremendous persuasion to deal with these religious structures. They're extremely sensitive structures. So if I were to deal with any of these religious structures, it would take a minimum of about 1 to 1.5 years. Require tremendous patience and negotiating skills. First, you have to identify who are the people actually who can be persuaded, the leaders of that particular religion or that particular sect actually. See, if it's a Hindu temple, I would send one of my general managers who has strong RSS background. Actually, he has got contacts with all Hindu religious organizations. He would go and tackle ISKCON temple. 3 times my effigy was burnt by ISKCON Swamijis. The same Swamiji came here to this chamber, and on the dotted lines he signed, because later he appreciated. He was a chartered accountant, brilliant person, but he had his belief. I said, Swamiji, fine. My general manager went and touched his feet. Said, so please don't stop our project. Actually, continued for about 1.5 years. The same Swamiji came and signed an agreement with me. Okay, we have solved the problem. Same is the case. If it's a Muslim structure, my chief engineer, who is a devout Muslim who would pray 5 times a day, he would handle them actually. See, again, after persuasion for 6 months or 1 year, they would come to negotiating table to me. I would say, same is the case with the churches actually. See, every point of time, of course, again in India, media is there, of course, because they have their own agenda, whatever is, because they see, basically, unfortunately in India what happens is, it's negativism which prevails. Japan, I give this example. Japan have gone to the other extreme actually because of their World War lessons actually. No negative news whatsoever is published in their newspapers. They went to the extreme example that at one point of time they had to tell, look, there was a nuclear explosion there. Even that news they were not giving properly. So in fact, government had to persuade them, please give that information, it's useful. So that extreme is there. Whereas in our country, any negative thing actually eyeballs are attracted. That's the thing. So people were making fun of the project. So they were hoping that this, yes. So when we started the project actually, in fact, that was completely negative thing at the time. The state was burning. In fact, even when I had to conduct international pre-bid meets actually, see, they were not sure. We were not sure whether we would reach that hotel or not actually. Sir. Hyderabad was burning at the time. Separate agitation was, state agitation was going on. Bifurcation issues were there. So that was the thing. So people used to ask me, sir, are you conducting the meet or not? I was not sure. Poor chap, old man. By then, unfortunately, Dr. Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy died. Mr. Roseya became the chief minister. He had his own worries. He was an old man. I would ask him, actually, sir, do I have the pre-bid meet or not? He says, NVS, I've got enough headaches actually. Do you want metro now? You want to add another headache to me? Do what you want, sir. Okay, then I decide. So that was the state of affairs. And then somehow, even he was shifted. Mr. Kiran Kumar Reddy became the chief minister. Mr. Kiran Kumar Reddy also initially, he was fully supporting. Luckily, all the chief ministers supported me. All the chief secretaries supported me. I worked with 5 chief ministers and 12 chief secretaries. Everybody supported me because they knew I was working for a cause. When I joined service, I had fire in my belly actually, so that I must do something. But my service is a conservative service. We are finance guys. Finance guys, by training, we become extremely conservative. So I wasn't comfortable actually in my service. About 20 years I'll somehow spent in railways. So whichever post I was holding, all the time I used to do a lot of reforms in that. So of course in that process I got several awards, including the Railway Minister's prestigious award, etc., which is normally not given to an officer. It is given to only the lower level people who sacrifice their lives, etc., during floods and all kind of a thing. I got all those awards, but somehow I was not getting satisfied that my full potential was not being made use of. Then the reforms were taking place. So at the time, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu was the Chief Minister of the then United Andhra Pradesh. He was implementing reforms in this state, AP state. I got attracted. So it's for me second time appearing for civil service. He thought that the civil service officers are not capable of implementing this kind of reforms. So for Director of Finance post, he insisted on professionals coming there. I appeared again for that exam. Among 50 chartered accountants, I topped that thing. Then, of course, Miss Rachel Chatterjee was the chairperson of the then AP Transco. I said, ma'am, I'm from Civil Services, IRAS. She said, then you come on deputation. That's how I came. For about 1 year, we slogged actually. I was in charge of Northern Power Distribution Company in Warangal. In Warangal, it used to lose 1 crore per day. So then the problem, see, most of my career I worked in Telangana and Rayalaseema regions. The problems here, especially in Telangana, at the time a region, now it's a state, is that senior officers, all of them, even though they're district in charge or mandal headquarters or other places, they all work from Hyderabad. So it's basically absentee landlordism. That's a problem of this area. So the first thing I said actually, nobody, chief engineers, SEs, all these people, they must be in the headquarters. That's in Warangal. All of them should shift. No, I will not allow you people to be operating from Hyderabad. Otherwise, I said, I'll cut your HRA. Okay. First thing. Then second thing, what they would say is, sir, this is all Naxal infested area, problems, people don't pay, etc. Then I used to go, every day I used to camp in some mandal headquarters or the other, some village or the other, all entire North Telangana region every day I used to go. I used to ask straight away, say, I would make the engineers sit there, actually the divisional engineers, SCs, etc. Say that what exactly is the problem. The farmers would say, sir, these people are never available. Transformers are getting burnt. We are prepared to pay. Of course, the crops will come and say in that season, we'll pay the amount, whatever is it, but these people are not available, etc. Then I understood there was tremendous corruption. I suspended straight away in my first week itself. I suspended some engineers. So then things changed, they understood. I said, look, I have not come here as a beggar. I have come here and on my own merit, and I have got a mandate. So 1 year anyway, we turned it around. Actually, we brought it to profits. Actually, a company which was losing 1 crore per day, we brought it to profits. Then again, many of my batchmates who were working here in the secretariat, then they told him, sir, NVS Reddy is already working with us. He's good at doing these things. He was at the time talking about making Hyderabad a great city, a global city, etc., etc. So I was brought to Municipal Corporation, GHMC, okay, at the time MCH, and I was made in charge of a very interesting project I did, MMTS. MMTS was a just 200 crore project, but it was a game changer. But those days, not many were traveling by that. Again, people used to say that it's a waste of money. Unfortunately, then Chandrababu Naidu lost power. Okay, YS Rajshekar Reddy came. So the first thing, some people went and told Dr. YS Rajshekar Reddy, sir, NVS Reddy is Chandrababu Naidu's man. So, and they also told him, there is one MMTS useless project is there, he spent 200 crore on that. In fact, you can constitute an inquiry committee into whole thing, actually see. There will be a big scam coming out of, actually you can attack Chandrababu Naidu. YSR called me one day, said, by then he came to know about my reputation, etc. He said, what is this project? What exactly happened? I said, sir, it's a good project. If you give me time, I will make it a very successful project. Actually, just the beginning. So he said, okay, if you are confident, you do it. So that's the great man. So I've seen different political leaders. They take a much broader view when compared to most of us, the bureaucrats. Okay. So that's what he has given me. Then of course I established close rapport with him. Then I started doing a lot of things without spending much of government money. I started experimenting by using advertisement rights. Actually, I built public amenities, etc. Then he used to tell everyone, see, look at NVS, how he is doing things, etc. Anyway, became very close. Then I did all these flyovers, etc., etc. Okay. So like that, number of things actually over a period of time. So People laughed at my initial project. Today, about 2 lakh people are traveling by MMTS. It has become a very big success. Otherwise, all sorts of funny things used to be written actually. MMTS bandandi, evaru ekkarandi, eagalu domalu potayandi, like this, titles used to come, etc. So MMTS has become a success. Then many other things. Another interesting thing, when I was building flyovers, again, Dr. YSR trusted me that there was an accident in Panjagota accident. That was again a very interesting experience. Unfortunately, in India, what happens is actually, if something happens, then everybody was trying to attack, saying that NVS Reddy should be shifted and he should be sent back to railways, etc., etc. Every day bad things used to appear in the newspaper. My family members used to get upset, say that, why do you want to work here? Actually, see, you are in a very good position there in Government of India. Okay, why didn't you go back? Why do you want to do this? I said, if I leave this, actually, it will remain a monument, because there was an example in Goa. Actually, see, in Goa also similar thing happened over Mandavi River. So the bridge which was under construction collapsed actually. For 10 years, it's a shame for the country actually. For 10 years, nobody touched that thing. It remained like that. All the foreigners would come to Goa. Their cars, etc., would be ferried on a ferry. It would be put, and they would cross the river, and they go to the beaches are all on the other side. So I said, this kind of a situation would happen. No, not that. Then Dr. YS Reddy, he asked some engineers to find it actually. So they said there is nothing wrong actually. That day all bad things happened actually. Maximum rainfall. Okay, and the slope is like that. Some other organization which was supposed to fill the things which they cut, they are supposed to fill properly. They didn't do that. They put muram instead of what is the quarry dust they were supposed to do. All these things anyway happened. So like this, see, every failure actually. Yeah, another interesting thing. At that time, by then itself, private sector was trying to woo me with fabulous salaries, etc. They would tell me, sir, why do you want to waste your time like this actually and face all this criticism, etc. At least now you quit the thing, etc. Join us. Would give you package, good package, etc. I said, no, I must continue, because you have many people who will work for you, but there are very few people in government actually who would like to do this kind of challenging things, etc. I would continue anyway. So like that, several things happened. Again, after Meta's failure, okay, I was by then empaneled. By then I completed my deputation of maximum. Normally they allow 5 years. Already I completed 7 years. So they asked me to come back, and I was also empaneled as joint secretary. I was one of the youngest officers to be empaneled as joint secretary. I said, whichever ministry you want, we'll give you, including finance ministry. But please come back to Government of India. They said, state governments don't trust. This was the general this thing. Even the principal secretary, the then principal secretary, the chief minister, I said, you're a bloody fool, I say. See, you have got selected as joint secretary. Nobody would leave this opportunity. And this project is not going to happen. It's a failed project. Better go back. I said, no, sir, I will stick to it. And so I went to Dr. YS Reddy. I said, sir, he said, you make up your mind what you want. So I said, okay, sir, I'll quit my service. I will continue here. So he issued a special GO that till your retirement, you would continue as MD of this project. Anyway, so then that also again I made use of. What happened was actually, see, when L&T bid for the project, a project like this, and see, by then it was 14,132 crore. Only 10% was coming as viable to get funding from Government of India, and 90% they had to raise on their own 3,000 crore of equity and about 12,500 crore of debt they had to. So banks, some gentlemen, he said, no, this project is not going to happen. Don't waste your money. Don't put money in that. Okay. I had to give assurance to all the bank chiefs, saying that, look, I take the responsibility. They would give all sorts of examples. As a part of the project, for example, I had to cut 5,000 trees, because 5,000 trees are coming in the way. He said, the bankers said, in one state, just for cutting 2 trees, the file went to the chief minister. I don't know why a file had to go to the chief minister in that particular state actually, just to cut 2 trees. The chief minister kept the file for several years, 2-3 years actually. The project got stuck. He said, sir, this is the situation and you are promising. I said, no, I'll take care. Don't worry about that. So anyway, I promised. Then they said, sir, what is the guarantee that you would continue as MD? Then I have shown this GO. I said, look, till my retirement, I am going to be the MD and I'll complete the project. Of course, it's a different matter that actually see KCR, even the present chief minister, okay, even after my retirement, he is continuing me. That's a different matter. I'm grateful to him. Okay, so this kind of a thing. So when I had to cut the trees, First thing I said, no, I will not cut the trees. What we did was, first year was actually, I told all my engineers, our job is to go for plantation, massive tree plantation. So we contacted resident welfare associations, schools, colleges, etc. We involved communities, we involved students actually. See, massive tree plantation we did. Then I gave a challenge actually. See, there are some people, great people in this country actually, they would only raise objections, etc. All sorts of things actually. So what I said, my challenge is, if you can prove that any particular tree can be translocated, that means physically what you do is actually you chop the branches and then little pruning, etc. you do, and physically you translocate actually from place A to place B. Okay, I said whatever is the cost, it may cost 5,000, it may cost 10,000. If it's a very big tree, it will cost even 20,000. I will translocate the tree. 2,000 trees we translocated. Okay, and as per the norms, for every tree you cut, you are supposed to do 5 saplings actually of plantation. I said, why 5? I'll do 50, I'll do 100, any number. So first year 1 lakh, second year another 1 lakh. My engineers used to say, sir, we are engineers, we are not horticulturists. Anything you have to do, you have to do. So again, this is an interesting thing. When I had to start the project, of course, one is convincing the bankers, etc. The financial closure happened exactly in 6 months. That was a record actually. See, a project of this magnitude is a $3 billion project. A $3 billion project, financial closure in Indian circumstances to happen in 6 months. Of course, that's basically because the strength of L&T balance sheet and of course our support that happened. Then all these things, one is the agitations, we face the agitations, effigy burning. Okay, you burn, if you want to burn my effigy, you burn, you're welcome actually, but I'll go and do what I want to do. Okay, so slowly they started convincing. Then we started giving lots of positive things like this, etc. So I gave fancy titles like Vana Diksha, Vana Prasadam, etc. With that involving the communities, etc. Afterwards I asked these people, so now can I cut the trees, etc. They said, sir, any number of trees if you want to cut, you can, because we believe in what. But the problem is actually it's lack of trust actually. So officers also perhaps don't deliver. That's why the people don't trust. So like this, and I say number of things we did. Then when I wanted to start the project, while government was giving me support, the then United AP government was giving me support, nobody was prepared to come to the site. Okay, the then Chief Secretary, Mr. Pankaj Dwivedi, and we went and we started the project. Okay, after about a year or so, Mr. Kiran Reddy, who was silently supporting us, he said, yes, NVS, now I'll come and visit your things actually. He said, my God, by then what happened was actually, I was making a lot of statements, etc. Things were floating around in the net and other places actually, without my knowledge. Okay, so people abroad were observing these things. One day I got a call from Global Infrastructure Forum. It's a prestigious forum. Actually, that year, that conference would happen in New York in 2013. Then I got a call saying that, sir, your project is selected as one of the top 100 projects of the world. Actually, see, the CEOs of these 100 projects, they should come and make a presentation in 5 minutes. Each CEO will be given time. You should tell how unique your project is. I went there, New York, hoping that would be one of the top 10 projects of the world actually. Then I explained my philosophy that metro projects are built by mostly railway engineers as pure engineering or transportation engineering or railway engineering projects. But I look at it from a different perspective. Apart from my engineering knowledge, which I was in railways for about 20 years, I was doing all these projects, etc. My finance background, my overall perspective, working in municipal corporation, town planning perspective, all these things, etc. So I looked at it as an opportunity to redesign an Indian city as a people-friendly green city, not look at this project as a simple thing. Again, I mentioned this actually, see, cities all over the world actually made mistakes. Cities are completely dovetailed actually to car movement. Then you realize that you can't build cities for cars, you have to build city for people, city for women, city for children, city for differently able people, city for poorer sections of the society. So all this concept I started weaving about it. At that time they were at the conceptual stage, initial work, etc. When I explained this in 5 minutes actually, how Hyderabad metro project is going to transform Hyderabad city in Indian city, to my surprise we were selected the best engineering project of the world year we got. That again went around. Kiran Reddy jokingly said, NVS, you have done some manipulation there also. I said, sir, this is how we have done it, actually we have got it. He said, no, I'm joking, etc. He said, he came. So he patted us. Then of course, all these things were happening. Then the main thing, when the bifurcation of the state was to happen, divided loyalties. Some would say, you support this cause, some would say that support. The main myth they propagated at that time was that actually, if the state gets bifurcated, Hyderabad metro project would suffer. This would not happen. This was the thing. So when the state was formed in 2014, the rumor started that no, this is the end of the project. Some people unfortunately prevailed upon L&T, and L&T wrote some bad letters. The Chief Minister, Mr. KCR, you know how tough he is actually. He got annoyed with them actually. So of course, for about 1 year, we had a really tough time. On the one hand, these L&T people who wanted to abandon the project. On the other hand, I had to be some sort of a peacemaker between government machinery on the one side and L&T on the other side. Then the Chief Minister, he said, okay, we have to do this project. Somehow you persuade them, etc. He gave them an opportunity to air their views, etc. Then of course, then things are different actually. So whether it is alignment issues, whether it's so many things, etc. Then in that process, Chief Minister KCR also told me, why don't you look at this again as an opportunity? You can do many more things as a part of this project. So every day we keep on adding new dimensions to this project. Then the best thing that happened to this project is Mr. KTR. Okay, he became, after the GHMC elections, which he won hands down, he was made in charge of municipal administration. I tell this actually, this is the best thing that has happened to Hyderabad Metro project. Then he started closely observing this project actually. I had the opportunity to closely interact with him. He was a person who lived abroad. He had seen the world, how the world has changed actually. So Chief Minister also told both Mr. KTR and me, you people have seen the world, you have seen the best concepts. Whatever is the best practices are there in the world actually, you bring it to Hyderabad Metro project. So that's how I actually see this urban rejuvenation project. I have started this actually. So I said, this is what I actually see, you know, what is happening in the Indian cities. For example, you think about children. It's happening in most parts of the world actually. Children today were robbing children of their childhood actually. Either they are in the school all the time actually trying to, it's like an intellectual taxidermy. People are trying to put as much information as possible in their minds, and perhaps they come back either on their computer or watching TV, couch potatoes, exercise whatsoever. Whereas I was born in a village. In fact, I keep saying this actually. My wound would never heal because we used to jump on the trees, actually fall from the trees actually. By the time the wound would heal, again I would fall, again it would further get ruptured. So this is the thing actually we enjoyed, and we used to do massive cycling, etc. Today we are able to go strong maybe because of that actually. So I want to recreate a village environment in Hyderabad in the metro stations. So this is how actually, so we are transforming Hyderabad metro stations. Same is the case with women. So it's an opportunity. I conducted sessions with women's groups. I said, I keep telling my engineers actually, if an educated woman who is going for a job, who is going to her office, or a college going girl actually, the kind of eve teasing she is subjected to, okay, you observe that. If we have to prevent that, as Gandhiji famously said actually, the independence to this country will become real if only a woman is able to go on her own in the midnight. Okay. So exactly. So this is the philosophy we got actually. It's for me, it's a social agenda. I conducted sessions with women's groups. I said, what do you want? Okay, with your experience. They came up with so many things actually. I incorporated all those things in this project actually. There were tears in their eyes. One officer is thinking about us. One organization is thinking about us. So like this actually, we interacted with different groups. We introduce all these concepts actually. We weave. So every day we keep changing the dimensions of this particular project actually. And simultaneously, I've given challenges actually to my engineers. Elevated metro all over the world, metro rail stations, they're built as what is called a portal structure. You have one pier or one pillar in the middle of the road, one pillar on the other side of the road. So 3 pillars, and this is a portal thing. One criticism against an elevated metro is that normally in every kilometer you have a station. So for about 180 meters to 200 meters, you're completely covering the road. It gives some sort of a tunnel look actually. See, that's the thing. You go to any other metro in India or abroad. Of course, there are not many metros, elevated metros in the world. Most of the metros are underground metros. Elevated metros started coming up only in. Now there are a number of metros actually, see, but all these elevated metros, they're basically built like that. So the challenge I gave to my L&T engineers, I said, look, why should we have a portal structure? Why can't we have a balanced cantilever structure? That means only in the central single pillar will be there, and we do away with the side pillar. And they said, sir, you know how complicated it is actually. See how many types of stresses, how many types of forces we have to, and what kind of loads. I said, no, you must work, because your tagline is actually, it's not engineering, it's imagineering. This is imagineering, you do that. Okay, they really slogged actually. For the first time in the world, we have come up with this unique model. We have taken bird as an example, bird as an inspiration, as the bird will have spine and 2 wings. So same thing, we have incorporated 5.5 meters 2 wings, 11 meters, and 9 meters of a spine, 20 meters. We have standardized the design. It's again an interesting concept. On the one hand you standardize, on the other hand you give flexibility. So entire, not even my another mandate, I said I am not going to, Hyderabad roads are as such very narrow, and I don't have, for example, for this Begumpet road, there's no alternative road actually. So I can't afford to close the road as it happened in Chennai or Bangalore, etc. So I'm not going to close the road, as I say. So for the first time in the world, the entire metro station, such a huge station, is built elsewhere, completely prefabricated and brought and fixed here, okay, overnight, and not even for half an hour we stopped the traffic, nor did we divert the traffic. So this is engineering. So like this, many things we have done. When I had to start the project, wherever I would go, my God, what kind of a mad traffic is there? How do we do it? So again, I told my engineers, I said, come what may. Of course, as a war strategy, you know, what we have done is actually, instead of starting the project from a difficult area, we started from the outskirts. Even outskirts at the time, Miapur we went completely, see, signal 3 times actually the signal was changing, but we were not able to move. We went to LB Nagar area, same situation. Okay. So first thing I said, let's do what? Road widening is one thing we have taken up. Then open nalas is there, the open waterways actually, let's close things, etc. and improve the carriageway, increase the carriageway. So all these things. Again, my engineers will say, so this is a job of GHMC. I said, doesn't matter whether it is job of GHMC or water board or anything. We are for the city, we are a government organization, and this is the project we have to do. We have to give the right of way to the private sector guy so that he can build it actually. So like this, several things we did actually. I can practically write on every pier of Hyderabad metro. We have 2,800 piers. Technical language, of course, that is 2,800 pillars actually. On every pillar I can write a chapter, and any number of books I can write. What kind of challenges we faced, how we came up with unique solutions. Again, my private sector partner L&T jokingly I say that you are the government and I am the private sector guy. Okay, they would write letters sitting in air-conditioned chambers. Initial things, sir, this is not given, this is not given. I said, no, come with me, walk all the time. We used to walk. Famously, they used to say, these are NVS Reddy's Padayatras. They used to say, we used to walk. I would call the engineers. I said, what is the problem? Why can't you solve this like this? Actually, yes, we can solve it. Then go ahead. On the spot decisions you have to give, on the spot orders you have to give. So like that we have done this project. I say, this is why I say this project actually. This can't be taught. You know, you go to Harvard, MIT, Stanford, anywhere you go, they will not know what to, how to do these things actually. You have to have gut feeling, you have to have passion, you have to have courage of conviction. So that's why my tagline, the beginning of my office, if you notice, is ideas pursued with passion and courage of conviction make impossible possible. Okay. A project like this cannot be done by bureaucrats. A project like this cannot be done by managers. This can be done only by leaders. We must take inspiration from great political leaders. How did Mahatma Gandhi achieve freedom for this country? How did Nelson Mandela fought for freedom of his country. Like this, these are the great leaders. They are inspirational leaders. So once in a while, I give lectures to my people. I try to motivate them, say that, look, I've taken the people from the same organizations, same government engineers, same government town planners, same government police officials, same government revenue officials. If you know how things are, actually, see, in other departments, they have all the power, they have all the perks, everything. So the first condition I put, if you want to join my organization, first of all, they know my reputation. They say, my God, this fellow is a mad fellow, the way he works, etc. This is a reputation. Okay. You be prepared. Number one, actually, you must be, no question of holidays. You can't say that, actually, say, sir, it's a holiday, so I'm not coming to office. No, you must. We have to be in the field. Well, ours is a small family. Me, my wife, and 2 kids. Of course, now they are grown up, 2 sons. Both of them, they studied in the US. First boy from the Duke University, he did his MS. Afterwards, he worked with McKinsey in Atlanta in US for about 5 years. Then he quit his job and he did his MBA from Oxford in London. That also he has just completed. Now going to London, having worked in almost for 10 years, he was in the US. Now he's going to Europe and he's going to work from London for some time. That's the first boy. His name is Arjun. The second boy, Rahul, he did his MS again from an American university, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. For about 2 years, he did his master's there, and he has come back. He has now joined a startup company in Bangalore. He likes startup companies. That culture is different. He likes more Indian environment, etc. Whereas the first boy wants to settle down abroad. So this is my family basically. And the main interesting thing is that, actually, see, I never bothered about my children's education because I was busy throughout in my career and doing all these projects, etc. It's my wife who took complete responsibility. And in fact, at one point of time, even though I knew my children were in which class, I didn't even know which section they were in, actually. So it's my wife who took complete, of course, being a lecturer, understands how to bring up children, how to get them well educated, etc. As I was basically motivated by my mother, similarly my 2 sons were motivated by their mother, actually. See, that's basically about my family. We relax in the sense, though I have a limited friend circle, I'm not able to get time. I have hobbies. Basically, my hobbies are, one is gardening, the second one is Telugu poetry. I myself used to write poetry in Telugu when I was in college. Again, in this project, at one point of time, when there were agitations going on, I made up my mind because political parties were attacking my project. I decided I should make use of my poetic skills. So with, in fact, an RTC driver, a born poet, actually, see, he is a semi-literate person. He and I together, we have written that Metro Rail Ochene, Maradala Maisamma, those 5 songs, actually. They became extremely popular. What we did was actually about 5,000 CDs. We released that Ganesh Pandals, every Ganesh Pandal. Freely we distributed that. Oh God, they were playing music, etc. In fact, at one point of time, the politicians started feeling threatened about. They thought that, actually, say, I would like to contest in elections those days. They used to say, sir, are you contesting from Secunderabad Conscience? I said, God, I have no such ambitions, actually. Say, it's only because we had to take, basically what is happening is actually at that particular time, for that matter, even today, Metro Rail is basically an esoteric concept, actually. It's an esoteric project. People thought that it's only at the intellectual levels and highly educated levels. We wanted to take it to the gullies of Hyderabad, to the ordinary masses of Hyderabad. So we explained, actually, see, for example, the entire energy conservation philosophy. Okay, that RTC driver and I, when we wrote that, basically, ఇంధనము ఖర్చు తక్కువ, ఇంజిన్ ఏమో స్పీడ్ ఎక్కువ, గుబగుయ్యం అనిపించే గుండెల దగ్గర సౌండ్ రాదు. So we talked about actually how energy conservation is done, how the decibel levels will have to be reduced, etc. So like that, interesting poems, actually, see. And also, ఏసీలో పోవచ్చిన మరదల మైసమ్మ నీ అందం ఇంకా మస్తైతది మరదల మైసమ్మ. When I said that, actually, Talia in the gullies, actually. So this is how, actually, we have taken the project to the masses. Then they said, my God, this guy is different, actually. He's unbeatable. Better let us leave this project. That's how, actually, we have done done this. But one thing I must tell you, see, one is the family support. But for the family support, I wouldn't have been able to work like this. In fact, the first few years, about 7-8 years, I had not taken a single day off. There used to be a lot of pressure on me that actually, Dad, at least take one holiday and come over. Only my wife used to go wherever these kids were there in the US. Only after the first phase was commissioned, I went and joined them in because my son at the time couldn't come actually. So we went and spent one holiday in Chicago there with my sons. Actually, my first son also flew from London. So like this, actually, see, it's number one, family support. Number two, the political support. All the 5 chief ministers supported me. Of course, the project was basically started during Dr. YSR's time. Actually, it was conceived. Later, see, Mr. Rosaya, Mr. Kiran Kumar Reddy, and of course the present Chief Minister, Mr. KCR. So these are the people actually who fully supported me, actually gave me the backing. But for the political support, a project like this actually cannot happen. Then of course, more than all this, actually, the people of Hyderabad, I owe this to the people of Hyderabad. Okay, though a minuscule minority were making issues naturally as a part of this project, actually 3,000 properties we had to acquire. Naturally, a person who is affected, even though we were giving very good compensation, but some lawyer would go and tell them that, look, if we instigate this, please sign on the dotted line. Actually, see, I will take care of all that. Actually, naturally, High Court writ petitions, etc., all those things actually. But the majority of people actually, how they backed us, actually, how they blessed us today, that's how Hyderabad Metro is a reality. It's a great pleasure to see the things that actually, so whatever you dreamt, today it's a reality. I started this organization as a one-man organization. When I started the Metro Rail project, when I started Hyderabad Metro Rail Limited, I was just one officer with one assistant engineer and one stenographer. Today, a lot of people are working for me. Behind me, you see my Metro Rail Bhavan. Actually, see, there was nothing here. We built a beautiful building. Okay, today lots of events take place. Important government meetings take place in this building, and this Rasulpura station. Okay, this is for the first time in the world that an elevated metro on a single pier, taking bird as an inspiration, as the bird has got spine and 2 wings. The whole thing is built. Actually, see, all the engineering experts in the world, they challenged me, including my guru Dr. Sridharan. They said, elevated metro, you can't build like this. Today we proved them wrong, actually, say, and we built this. Actually, say, practically I opened up. What all I have taken is only 2 meters. That means about 8 feet at the road level. Central median we have taken. On that, on top, we have created such a huge structure. This entire structure, okay, with lots of forces, including the seismic forces. Actually, say, all these are standing on. As in the olden days, they used to say, Vanti Stambam Mada. Actually, see, that single pier in the central median, only these 10 piers will be there. Actually, see, only they are there. So this is what we have created. So what is considered to be impossible, we made it possible. That too, not with government money, not with taxpayers' money, with private money. Okay, so you and I are not indebted. This is what we have done. So it's an engineering innovation, it's a financial innovation, it's a legal innovation. All these things for the first time in the world, actually, when documents are not available, we created these documents. Not only creating a documents, that to a technology neutral metro structure we created theoretically. From theoretical metro rail technology neutral structure, we converted into reality. Today everybody says, so that's how the whole world wonders how in Hyderabad, an Indian city, built this kind of a metro. So this is what gives me greatest pleasure. So when people offered me crores of rupees salary from the private sector, I said, I'm not inspired by those things, I'm not motivated by money. This is what gives me satisfaction. For generations, people will remember that we have done this. So when we go to London, etc., London, Paris, and all those experts say, you are lucky, you are able to see your own baby growing, whereas we have not seen who built our metros. 100 years ago, metros were built, but you are able to build something, your own baby is growing. So this gives me tremendous satisfaction.